Stakeholders in disaster management. Disaster management has to be essentially a collective endeavor. Therefore, a set of institutional stakeholders such as central government, state government, central and state government departments, Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, National Disaster Response Force, district administration, local authorities like municipal corporations, municipalities, gram panchayats, voluntary organizations and civil society play important role in disaster management and calls for systematization of a framework of operation. In the previous lesson, you have learnt about the Disaster Management Act, which provides for a setting up of a number of institutions and their powers and functions in relation to disaster management. Objective. On completion of this lesson, you would know about the stakeholders in disaster management. Central government. The central government is the major stakeholder in disaster management. It is responsible for taking up all such measures necessary for the purpose of disaster management. It coordinates actions of all stakeholder agencies. The central ministries and departments will take into consideration the recommendations of the state government department while deciding upon the various pre-disaster requirements and for deciding upon the measures for prevention and mitigation of disaster. It ensures the central ministries and departments integrate measures for the prevention and mitigation of disasters into their developmental plans and projects, make appropriate allocation of funds for pre-disaster requirements and take necessary measures for preparedness and to effectively respond to any disaster situation or disaster. The central government has power to issue directions to National Executive Committee, state governments, state disaster management authorities, state executive committees or any of their officers or employees to facilitate or assist in disaster management, and these bodies and officials have to be bound to comply with such directions. The central government will extend cooperation and assistance to state governments as required by them or otherwise deemed appropriate by it. It will take measures for the deployment of the armed forces for disaster management. The central government will also facilitate coordination with the United Nations agencies, international organizations and governments of foreign countries in the field of disaster management. Role of central ministries and departments. As disaster management is a multidisciplinary process, all central ministries and departments have a key role in the field of disaster management. The nodal ministries and departments of Government of India, that is the Ministry of Agriculture, Atomic Energy, Civil Aviation, Earth Sciences, Environment and Forests, Home Affairs, Health, Mines, Railways, Space, Water Resource, etc., will continue to address specific disasters as assigned to them. National Crisis Management Committee. The National Crisis Management Committee, comprising high-level officials of the Government of India headed by Cabinet Secretary, deal with major crises which have serious or national ramifications. It will be supported by the crisis management groups of the central nodal ministries and assisted by National Executive Committee as may be necessary. The Secretary, the National Disaster Management Authority, is a member of this committee. State governments, the primary responsibility for disaster management rests with the state governments. The institutional mechanism put in place at the center, state and district levels will help the state manage disasters in an effective manner. State governments take necessary measures for preparation of disaster management plans, integration of measures for prevention of disasters or mitigation into development plans, allocation of funds, establishment of early warning systems, assist the central government and other agencies in various aspects of disaster management. District administration. Administration at the district level, disaster management authorities acts as the district planning, coordinating and implementing body for disaster management and will take all measures for purposes of disaster management in the district in accordance with the guidelines laid by National Disaster Management Authority and state disaster management authorities. Management of disasters impacting more than one state. At times, the impact of disasters occurring in one state may spread over to the areas of other states. Similarly, preventive measures in respect of certain disasters such as floods, etc., may be required to be taken in one state as the impact of their occurrence may affect another. The administrative hierarchy of the country is organized into the national, state and district level administrations. This presents some difficulties in respect of disasters impacting more than one state. Management of such situation calls for a coordinated approach which can respond to range of issues quite different from those that normally present themselves before, during and after the event. National Disaster Management Authority will encourage identification of such situations and promote the establishment of mechanisms on the lines of mutual aid agreement for coordinative strategies for dealing with them by states and central ministries, departments and other agencies concerned. Armed forces. Conceptually, the armed forces are called upon to assist the civil administration only when the situation is beyond their coping capability. In practice, however, the armed forces form an important part of the government's response capacity and are immediate responders in all serious disaster situations. On account of their vast potential to meet any adverse challenge, speed of operational response and the resources and capabilities at their disposal, the armed forces have historically played a major role in emergency support functions. These include communication, search and rescue operations, health and medical facilities and transportation, especially in the immediate of a disaster. The air and heli lift and movement of assistance to neighboring countries primarily fall within the expertise and domain of the armed forces. The armed forces will participate in imparting training to trainers and disaster managers, heli insertion, high altitude rescue, watermanship and training of paramedics. At the national level, the Chief of Integrated Defense Staff and the Chairman Chief of Staff Committee has already been included in the National Executive Committee. Similarly, at the state and district level, the local representatives of the armed forces may be included in their executive committees to ensure closer coordination and cohesion. Central paramilitary forces. The central paramilitary forces, which are also the armed forces of the Union, play a key role at the time of immediate response to disasters. Besides contributing to the NDRF, they will develop adequate disaster management capability within their own forces and respond to disasters which may occur in the areas where they are posted. The local representatives of the paramilitary forces may be co-opted, invited in the executive committee at the state level. State police forces and fire services. The state police forces and the fire services are crucial immediate responders to disasters. The police force will be trained and the fire services upgraded to acquire multi-hazard rescuing capability. Civil defense and home guards. The mandate of civil defense and the home guards will be redefined to assign an effective role in the field of disaster management. They will be deployed for community preparedness and public awareness. A culture of voluntary reporting to duty stations in the event of any disasters will be promoted. State disaster response force. States will be encouraged to create response capabilities from within their existing resources. To start with, each state may aim at equipping and training one battalion equivalent force. They will also include women members for looking after the needs of women and children. SDRF battalions and their training institutions will assist the states, union territories in this effort. The states, union territories will also be encouraged to include the disaster management training in their respective police training colleges and basic in-service courses for Gazette and non-Gazette officers. Role of National Cadet Corps, National Service Scheme and Nehru Yuva Kendra Sangathan. Potential of these youth-based organizations will be optimized to support all community-based initiatives, and disaster management training would be included in their programs. International cooperation. Disasters do not recognize geographical boundaries. Major disasters may often simultaneously affect several countries. It will be the national endeavor to develop close cooperation and coordination at the international level in all spheres of disaster management, non-governmental organizations and community groups. The entire process of disaster management is focused to the community and is provided momentum and sustenance through the collective efforts of government agencies and non-governmental organizations. Civil society organizations, voluntary agencies and local community groups would actively participate in prevention, mitigation and preparedness activities of the district under the overall direction and supervision of District Disaster Management Authority. They would assist the district administration and local bodies in the identification of hazards and assessment of vulnerability and risk, and actively participate in the training activities in the pre-disaster stage, familiarizing themselves with their role in community-based disaster risk management. Non-governmental organizations and community groups under the supervision of District Disaster Management Authority and local bodies would be encouraged to develop mechanisms to mitigate disasters at the grassroots level through participation of communities. Crisis management groups. Crisis management refers to the organization and management resources and responsibilities for dealing with response and immediate restoration of essential services. It involves plans, structures and arrangements established to coordinate the response of state government. A well coordinated and unified response of various state departments and agencies appropriate to the proportion and demand of the crisis situation is ensured by the state government to improve the process of relief and recovery through rapid dissemination of information, quick response and effective decision making. An institutional mechanism distinguished as Crisis Management Group under the chairmanship of Chief Secretary with representatives of Department of Home, Department of Revenue and Disaster Management and Department of Health function at the state level as a nerve center to support, coordinate and monitor crisis management activities related to natural disasters, man-made, accident-related disasters, industrial, chemical disasters, biological disasters and radiological nuclear disasters. Accordingly, crisis management plans that clearly defines response roles and responsibilities of government agencies, facilitate communication across agencies, specify protocols and procedures, and detail actions to be taken by government department shall be prepared and made operational by the state government, State Disaster Management Authority 2005. District Crisis Management Group headed by the District Collector would flash the first information to the State Crisis Management Group and activate Crisis Management Plan under the guidance of State Crisis Management Group as and when a crisis situation is developed. State Crisis Management Group would be updated by District Collector with subsequent post-disaster assessments on damages and needs. The unprecedented crisis left over by 2004 tsunami urged the state machineries to robustly plan for disaster management and mitigation activities on a long-term basis. Policies and acts were drafted in lieu with the same. Interface between the stakeholders. The interface between stakeholders and the disaster management framework is supported by the Disaster Management Act 2005. Decisions such as those taken for establishment of the committees for managing disasters and the government orders taken out to execute these decisions. These decisions or measures direct the composition of the structure by identifying the stakeholders to be drawn in the disaster management structure. However, these do not define the role to be performed by each stakeholder. While the involvement of stakeholders in the interface is mandatory and permanent, the nature of interface is directed by the expertise or relevance of the stakeholder to the disaster management structure. The expertise-based interfaces emerge when the stakeholder serves as service providers to the disaster management structure. For a better understanding of the national disaster management in the country, let us see the flow chart, which explains the very structure in which disaster management is effectively dealt with in the country. The structure basically explains that the central government headed, followed by the state government, then followed by the district administration, further followed by the panchayats and municipalities. The Ministry of Home Affairs is the crucial ministry which deals with the national disaster management. There is a National Disaster Management Authority where the chairman is the Prime Minister. The MHA is the mediatory as an important body of central government. There is a National Institute of Disaster Management which also guides the state government. Further, at state level there is a State Disaster Management Authority with chairman as the Chief Minister, who is further followed by the District Disaster Management Authority, the co-chairman, generally the district magistrate, president of Jilla Parishads. At the national level, you can see the National Executive Committee, and at the state level, you could see the State Executive Committee. Summary. Disaster management is a collective endeavor. As such, a set of institutional stakeholders play important role in disaster management. The central government is the major stakeholder and it is responsible for taking up all measures necessary for the purpose of disaster management. It coordinates actions of all central ministries and departments, all other stakeholders. The central government has power to issue directions to the National Executive Committee, state governments, state disaster management authorities, state executive committees, or any of their officers to facilitate in disaster management. The National Crisis Management Committee deals with major crises which have serious or national ramifications. The primary responsibility for disaster management rests with the state governments. The institutional mechanism at the center and district level helps the states in managing disasters in an effective manner. State governments take necessary measures for preparation of disaster management plans, integration of measures for prevention of disasters or mitigation into development plans, assist the central government and other agencies. At the district level, the district disaster management authorities act as the district planning, coordinating and implementing body for disaster management and will take all measures for the purpose of disaster management in the district. The process of disaster management is focused to the community and is provided momentum and sustenance through the collective efforts of government agencies and non-governmental organizations. The interface between stakeholders and the disaster management framework is permanent and backed by legislative measures. Model questions. Question 1. Why disaster management has to be a collective endeavor? Question 2. Why the central government is called the major stakeholder in disaster management? Question 3. What is the major function of National Crisis Management Committee? Question 4. What is the primary responsibility the state governments with regard to disaster management? Question 5. Discuss the role of district administration in disaster management. References: a global report, Reducing Disaster Risk, a Challenge from Development by UNDP, BCPR 2004. Climate Change and Disasters in India, Mal R.K., R. Kumar and R. Butla 2010. Journal of South Asian Disaster Studies, SARC Disaster Management Center, New Delhi, in press. Crisis Management for Despair to Hope, third report, Second Administrative Reforms Commission, September 2006, New Delhi. Disaster Reduction in United Nations 2011, Roles, Mandates, Areas of Work of Key United Nations Entities, ISDR. Government of India 2005, Disaster Management Act 2005. Government of India 2009, National Policy on Disaster Management, IMD 2016. The report of High Powered Committee on Disaster Management in India, National Center for Disaster Management, Indian Institute of Public Administration. you.